Okay, so welcome to our restorative practice for the swadhisthana chakra, the sacral chakra. We are just going to go for it and go into Supta Baddha Konasana, the reclining butterfly, reclining bound angle. This is just such a luxurious pose, and it's actually really great for everything, but we are going to be focusing on the second chakra tonight. And I want to talk a little bit about that. And this is a great pose to just start to experience it. So if you are familiar with that pose, you're welcome to just make it happen. If you are newer to the practice, we want pretty much all of the props we can think of. If you have a yoga bolster, which is kind of like a thick rectangular pillow, or you can always use a couple regular bed pillows, like turned longwise, or depending on the kind of cushions you have on your couch. And you want to lie back over that. One of the things I would recommend, if you have yoga blocks, we will sort of create this 45-degree angle with the blocks. So you can either do the tower and then the middle, or you could do the lower. So if you've got a thinner pillows, I would say do the lower version. So if the block has 3 levels, there's like baby bear, flat, mama bear on the side, and like daddy bear, the tower, or however you want to think of that. There's a lot of different versions. So if you have like a really firm bolster pillow, you can do the papa bear and the mama bear. Otherwise, do mama bear and baby bear. But the bolster or pillows will go over that so that the bottom part is on the mat so that your butt can be on the ground and you'll lie back. You do want to make sure to tend to the head. So if you want to put a pillow or fold up a towel at the top. And then what we're most interested in the practice tonight is the hips. So Baddha Konasana, reclining butterfly, is when the soles of the feet are together. And so if you have a couple blankets or pillows or props, I really want you to put those underneath your thighs. So that way the hips won't overstretch. And then you can roll yourself down. Now, if you just come off a busy day and you feel like you want to do a little bit of movement, that's fine. You could take a little cat-cow or a little stretch, because we are going to be here for several minutes tonight. So I want you to be as comfortable as possible as you come into this pose. So if you have a lot of props, then what you can do even is you have a pillow under the head. You can put pillows under the arms. You can even lie a blanket down for your butt so that your sacrum and your butt can rest. But essentially the outer form of the pose is that we're lying back with the soles of the feet together, definitely supporting the thighs to help open the hips, and the upper body is comfortable too. So coming into your Supta Baddha Konasana, reclining bound angle, butterfly pose. So if you're just joining us, we're coming into Supta Baddha Konasana, reclining butterfly, lying on the back with the soles of the feet together, maybe laying over the bolster or pillows with support under your thighs. And anything that you can make this a sensory experience. So the second chakra is the senses. It's our emotions, our intuition, our intimacy. So you can even pause for a moment and light a candle. You could burn some incense, or put some essential oil and a diffuser on your hands, cover your eyes, bring the lights down low, whatever you could do to make the practice pleasing to the senses. So again, we have plenty of time in the practice tonight. We're doing very few poses to kind of bring us into this area so we can really be and sense and feel into the sacred waters of the sacrum. But our first pose, like I said, Supta Baddha Konasana is a favorite for a lot of people in the restorative world. And the more support, the better. So you can kind of see my setup in the back, laying over the bolster with the soles of the feet together, support under the thighs. And so as you come into your reclining bound angle, as you tend to the senses, as you tend to the body, so lying on your back, soles of the feet together with as much support as you can find, and just notice, can you be a little more comfortable? Can you bring support to the thighs, to the knees, to the head? So how decadent and luxurious can you make your reclining bound angle? Can you cover your eyes? Like I said, bring in a scent that is pleasing. And then once you're as comfortable as you can be in your Supta Baddha Konasana, just start to breathe. And because the swadhisthana chakra is the water element, can we breathe like water? And obviously, if we think about that statement, it doesn't make any sense because we can't breathe in the water, right? But we're not obviously referring to literal. And because the second chakra is so much about emotions and senses, we really want to be in that more creative, intuitive space. And so think about your relationship to water. So as you sink into the support of this shape, what is your relationship to water? And maybe you have, you don't have a great relationship to water, or you don't live near water, or you think you don't have one, but we all do, whether it's drinking water or tea, whether it's our shower, our bath, the rain, a pool, a hot tub, a lake, a stream. At some point in our lives, we usually feel some sort of relief from the immersion of water. Again, whether that's just, a cool glass of water, a warm glass of water when you need it. And so in this first pose, can we invoke the senses through water, through breathing like water? Can we allow our senses of this moment to activate our sensual nature of water? Allowing yourself to feel that for this whole practice, you're floating in the water, or in some way being blessed, immersed in the water. Maybe you were lying out, under a warm rain, or floating in the sea, or tubing down a river. So I've done that before, and it kind of feels like this, right? When you're lying in the tube, right? You can kind of do a little Supta Baddha Konasana. And just let yourself be in that space. So water is healing. Water is transforming. Water is our unconscious, our dreams. It is very powerful, and it can be very destructive. So if you think about a water source, right? Like, we know not enough water is dangerous, right? Like when we don't have that moisture in the body, the lubrication, when things get dry and cracked, it's not, it's not sustainable. And too much water is also dangerous, floods, hurricanes, tsunamis, right? Like, that's a lot. And we've all had that experience when we've been overwhelmed by an emotion that comes suddenly, like grief or rage or even love. Sometimes we get overwhelmed by love and it's almost too much, right? Sometimes. And so every time we move into the chakras, and we're moving through our chakra system right now, we want a healthy relationship with this part of the body and with this energetic system. And so the Swadhisthana chakra rests at the sacrum. It rules the pelvis, the hips, the genitals, the reproductive organs. In the yin tradition, water is found in the kidneys, which is just above the sacral area in the back body, under the back ribs. And it is connected to sexuality, sensuality, emotionality, intuition. It is developed in the first couple years of life as we start to leave the safety, or the lack of safety of our sort of attachment, our caretakers, and we start to feel into the world. We start to have our own feelings. And for a lot of us, we were not able to develop our own feelings. We were told very early on what feelings were good and what feelings were bad, and not to feel this way, and you shouldn't feel that way, and you should feel this way. And a lot of that was well-meaning. In a lot of dynamics, the disconnect we have in our systems wasn't malicious. It's just human. And so much of our human life is trying to navigate, right? Like the balance. And even within our yoga poses, we do counter poses, because certain poses just done on their own over and over, they create an imbalance. And so we want balance. And so when we spend time in this chakra, there is a pulsation between flow and depth. So in my other practices this week, we have incorporated like flow movement. So that can be up to you. You know, you can choose in this practice between poses, or if the body is just feeling really distracted, to find a more fluid movement, or you can allow that flow to be in the stillness. So even if you're lying here completely still, supported by props, there is that pulse. There is that flow of breath. And you can focus the breath low in the belly. You can visualize that water element alive in your pelvis, in your hips. And you can let that flow through you and over you during this practice. The color is orange. The element is water. The sacred sound is VAM, V-A-M. So you can breathe in and out the color orange, or again, that water landscape. You could breathe in and out the sound of VAM, or even vocalize that if you feel yourself getting distracted or frustrated. And just allowing space for feeling. Feelings are intended to flow. Feelings are not facts. Our feelings, though, are very important in developing our intuition and choosing our actions. But we want to be able to honor and be with our feelings so that they can guide the appropriate response rather than the sort of instinctual reaction. And so resting with our emotions, the way we watch the rain, the way we watch the waves, we know we can't control it or fix it. We just allow it. And usually, if we can just allow this flow and stillness, if we can observe our emotions without judgment, without control, trying to fix or act, they will move through us. So just allowing the practice, the restorative swadhisthana practice, to be that of surrender, that of receptivity, that of release. We are emotional creatures. We have a fluid body. We are 70% water. So allowing the space to be held and rocked and rinsed, flowing with breath and emotion. Just again, allowing there to be an anchoring presence in the pelvis, breathing into belly, breathing into the water element, the color orange, the sound of VAM. Just letting that rock you through this practice, through this pose. And we'll be here a little bit longer in our Supta Baddha Konasana. Just allowing it to be whatever it is. Just trusting your feeling, trusting your intuition in the practice. And if that's something you feel like you don't normally do, then this is the place to explore. Slow oceanic breath, invoking Swadhisthana Chakra, slowing down everything else, sensing, feeling. You are welcome to stay here. You can stay here the whole practice. I've definitely had students stay in Supta Baddha Konasana the whole class. But otherwise, just start to notice your senses. Notice the sound of my voice, any other sounds. Notice the temperature on your skin. As you breathe in and out, notice the scent in the nostrils. Hopefully the eyes are softened or closed. And just feeling into your mouth. So there is this direct connection between the mouth and the pelvis. And some of that is related to our chakra system, the dynamic between fifth chakra and second chakra. But the senses, and especially the sense of taste, ties us into the sacral chakra. So as you settle and start to transition from this pose, just swallow, shift your jaw, just notice your mouth, notice the sensation in the mouth, the taste in the mouth. As you feel into that sense of the taste of the mouth, you can begin to bend your knees if you'd like to move out of your Supta Baddha Konasana. And we're going to move into wild child. So if you know that that doesn't work for you, you could always just roll onto the back and hug the knees into the chest and just kind of roll around, massage the sacrum there. Otherwise, you can take your time to roll to one side or roll up. And for Balasana, child's pose, I like to pad the knees. And you can even turn towards your props. And I like to have the bolster flat, so you could move the blocks or the books. You could also just use a block and place it under your chest or under your forehead here. So either on the back, knees to chest, gently massaging the sacrum and the low back, or knees wide, big toes together, sitting back on your heels and lowering yourself onto the bolster. And you could put another little pillow on top to relax the forehead down, or you can turn one facial cheek. And again, here, you can just kind of gently rock the hips. So the knees are open as wide as it is comfortable. Relax the shoulders and the face. And again, if you're on the back, you can just hug the knees in, holding behind the thighs or the shins. You could rock the hips. You could kind of circle the knees. Like I said, stillness, even when we're still, there's still that pulse. There's still that flow of breath. But if you do need a little bit of movement, you can really just, this is a good space to kind of honor that and feel into it. Otherwise, noticing the back body, so the sacrum, the back of the pelvis, and here we get to connect to that kidney region, which, like I said, the meridian system is a little bit of different energetics than the chakra system, but I do feel like they relate. I feel definitely like the kidneys belong to that second chakra energy. So breathing into the back body, full breath. Soften the jaw and let go. Find that sense of yielding and surrender. So if you, again, have safely swam in the ocean, right? Like when you kind of get into the current, and if you've ever like floated on the water, like just, again, whether in a tube or on your back, and you're just allowing it to carry you. And when I was younger, we used to, like, if we were in an above ground swimming pool or like a hot tub, we'd all walk like one direction or like swim one direction for a long time until it created that current. And then you kind of let go and it would just move you. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about there. And it's the same thing with the swadhisthana chakra. It's like we want to find the flow. And that's the intuitive energy of the second chakra. When we just get into the flow. And for a lot of us, that is through creativity, whether it's painting or writing or dancing or cooking or lovemaking or massage or, the shower, the bath, swimming. Like, think about all the sort of fluid activities, the sensory, sensual activities where we kind of lose ourselves. And in that losing of self, we sort of awaken that intuition. a lot of times for me, if I'm stuck on a mental process and I let myself do something that's just sensual and intuitive, whether it's yoga or journaling or something like that, like I'll notice all of a sudden, right? Like I'll get that clarity. And so there's a reason the second chakra is associated with fertility. And of course, this is also the realm of biological baby making and birthing, but it's also the imprint, that imprint of creativity and fertility and possibility that applies to all of us, regardless of, you know, how or what or why we actually use this space. And so tapping into that life force, that is water. Water is life. Very important thing for all of us as a culture as well, to respect the water, to heal the water, to respect and bless and revere the water. How sacred is the water we drink, the water we bathe in, the waters of nature. And I absolutely feel that, you know, the chakra system has a ripple effect. When we attend to our own water source, our own sexual, creative, emotional realms, I do believe that vibrates out. And as within, so without. As we tend to our own waters and protect them and nourish them, then we're better capable of protecting and tending to the waters of the world. So stay with your breath, letting go. Just be mindful if you sort of turned one facial cheek down in your balasana, if you're in child's pose, to check in with the other side. And take a big, big breath in. Open mouth, exhale. And as before, you are totally welcome to stay in child's pose. We are going to come up for a seated hip opener, a seated forward fold hip opener. So if you're in child's pose, roll yourself up. And if you're on your back, you can roll to one side and come up. I would love for you to sit up on a blanket or pillow and maybe sit up even against the wall or your bed. I'm going to give you two options for the hip opener here. Option one is to come back into butterfly, soles of the feet together. And you definitely could put your props back under your thighs here. Another option is wide legs, Upavishta Konasana, so legs wide. And you can adjust your seat so you're up on your sits bones. And the legs don't have to be like that wide. They can be as wide as is comfortable. The general alignment guideline is we want the toes facing up without over flexing, and we want to be up on the sits bones. You could also put pillows under the knees here. In either variation, we want the sit bones to be down, and then we want to find that lifting up and out of the pelvis. And again, that fluid sort of roll down. So almost think about like when we do that motion of cat, cow, or circles, right? So like there's an inhale to rise. And then as we exhale, there's sort of a melting, a pouring of the heart forward. And you can rest your hands or arms on blocks. If you have a bolster, bringing it up on its side and then tucking the chin and then coming up and over, placing the forehead down can be really nice. And if you have a chair in your practice space, put the chair either between the legs or have the feet kind of under the chair and stack yourself up and place the forehead down. So you can even kind of do that by the bed or again, if you have a chair. So I would love to have sit bones down. We lift up and over, and then the forehead rests. So then we have that wave through the spine. But listen to your body, listen to the space. And again, if you need to rock a little bit, shift, if you want to take a few, cat cows and just kind of get that movement going, and then see if you can settle into the depth, right? Still allowing the flow. And again, I like this because we're accessing kidney as well as hips and sacrum. So kind of coming up and into the pose, soft knees, wherever you are. You can always change your mind too. So trust the intuition. Maybe you start with wide legs and the knees don't like it. So you come into bound angle, or vice versa. You're in bound angle and then the legs start to feel like they want a little bit of a deeper stretch. And it's just different. It's not necessarily deeper. It's just different. When the legs are wider, obviously there's just kind of more to experience because they're out from the body. And we're getting into the calves and the hamstrings as well as the hips. But no right or wrong with feelings. And that's really important. The right of the second chakra is the right to feel. And this is a tricky lesson. And I'm always talking to my 7-year-old because he's very emotional, but he immediately connects his emotion with action. And we'll talk about that next week in the third chakra, which is action. So like when he gets upset, he'll like, if he gets mad or upset, he'll just immediately, throw something or hit something or whatnot. And, we're always talking about how like, it's fine. It's totally fine. If you're sad, if you're mad, like it's okay. It's okay to be sad. Things are upsetting, things are frustrating, but it's not okay to like hurt people because of that. It's not okay to act out. And that reaction response is the relationship between second and third chakra. So having that capacity to pause, which is different from freezing or fight or flight, which was that root chakra, right? So we establish the root chakra, we have the safety and security that now we can feel and process feelings. So it's not just like a simple, okay, clear your, second chakra. Like there's a whole system here we're talking about, right? But so to be with our feelings without reaction or freezing or repression is that's adulting. That is some adulting, because a lot of us aren't taught how to regulate it as children. And it's hard, it's hard to be sad and, not throw a tantrum, or be angry and not throw a tantrum or shut down. And so this is that deep water of the second chakra, is to feel whatever you feel and breathe and be with it and safely process and discern it, and then choose your action, right? So yoga is all about choosing a conscious choice of where to put our attention. And sometimes it's just about feeling. It's just about feeling what it is and being with that without attachment or aversion. That's what a lot of meditation is just being with your feelings and breathing and accepting. And then from that calm water, right, we then make our action. We access the fire. So the yoga practice is a great place because these poses bring up feelings. Now, certainly, sometimes feelings do require immediate reaction. So if you're in a hip opener and all of a sudden you have a sharp shooting pain in your knee or your hip, like get out of the pose. Like definitely don't I'm going to wait and see, right? Like if the body's giving you that strong signal, we do want to respond. And so that, again, there's not a perfect, right or wrong to our emotional being. Right? It's not like, oh, you always pause before you act with a feeling. Like, no, there's no always and never here. It's just, you have the right to feel. And it will be messy and it will be imperfect and it will change. But You still have the right to feel the way you feel, and we're just constantly navigating, kind of what to do with that, because it does vary. So again, the senses help us to feel. If you're having a strong emotion, notice the smell, notice the taste, notice the sounds. Come into the sensory body. Deepen your breath, again, breathing into low belly. Color orange. Visualization of water. And sound, a good mantra, a good sigh, a good hum. That can help to move the energy too. Emotion is energy in motion. So just be where you are a little bit long, adjusting if you need to. Deep breath in. Sigh it out. And if you're ready, no rush, roll it on it. And you can carefully guide your knees in. For the next couple of poses, we're going to move to the back. I would like you to have at least a block and then maybe a couple blankets or pillows. We're going to take a supine twist, which is the better twist for the lower chakras. And then we'll do a supported bridge. So that just kind of just gives you the information so you can kind of go into the feeling, go into the flow. But when you're ready, we'll roll down. And then I have a couple bolsters. So I'll put a bolster on either side of my mat, kind of like mid mat to the sides. But you can just do a couple pillows. You might also put a pillow or a blanket between your knees. So I'm lying on my back. And I'm going to bring my knees into my chest once I've placed my props kind of out to the sides. And the blanket's between my knees. And so you can keep the knees together and then just lift your hips, kind of move them a little bit to the left. Bring your arms up and out to the sides and then bring the knees up and over to the right. So I'm going to stack my knees and my feet on the bolster and I have a blanket between them. And I'm going to rest here. So this is one option. I've got my feet and my knees stacked on my bolster. If you want to get a little bit deeper in the reproductive organs, you'll just do one leg at a time. So you would extend the right leg, and then you would just bring the left knee up and over to the props, shifting the hips over. So this is a little bit deeper to have just the one leg up and over, and it can be harder to do. This really kind of gets right into that, that region. So the shoulders roll down whatever version you're in. And if you have another favorite version of a reclining twist, then you're welcome to go for that too. And we are here for several breaths and we want to have that flow of breath. So just, feel into the body, what feels safe, what feels comfortable, and what allows you to be in that flow of breath. The upper body is relaxed, the shoulders are down. For twists, to make the twist a little bit more intense, you can look away from the knees with your head or keep the head neutral or even roll it to the same side to be a little bit softer. Relax the face, let everything settle. And really breathing into that low belly, low back. So these supine twists, they just help to rinse out the internal organs in the lower body, the organs of reproduction, the organs of elimination. Also very grounding, bring that water element into the earth. And so if you think about, planting a garden, right? You want to plant the seed. We first make sure the soil is ready. And then we put the seed in there, and then we bring the moisture, and then we bring, we allow the sunlight. So in a lot of ways, that's the first three chakras, which are the most tangible of the chakras. Those are our most sort of hands-on elements. So we establish the soil, so we can place the seed, and now we make sure that it's been watered, that the moisture is there. And then we'll talk next week about the fire, about the sun, the light. First, the waters. So relax the shoulders, soften the jaw. Just let the breath continue to flow. Stay present with this part of the body. And staying aware of your senses. Breath flowing like waves. The little one gets a little loud towards the end of my teaching schedule on Friday nights. Oh, sorry if there's a little chatter there. Can you let go a little bit more? And then we're going to take our time and move to the other side. So I'd like to invite you to take just a couple more slow, deep breaths here. And then just sense your way to the other side. So take your time. Draw the knees in. Let your hips sort of rest, thighs towards belly, maybe a little rocking. Maybe you shift your hips a little bit more towards the right to bring the knees kind of up and over to the left. Or however you're twisting on your back here. Just make sure if you have support available that you can do that. Really softening and settling so you can breathe deep and low. And so, it's not always available to twist. There are definitely certain, bodily transitions we go through where twisting isn't available. And even in pregnancy, different phases of pregnancy, twists become a little less accessible. And so there's always a modification. But like I said, generally this twist is just really nice for clearing out either that excess water, or if it's deficient, it kind of unblocks. And that's what, twists are intended to be very intelligent in that way, that when we sort of wring out the spine, it balances it. If there's too much, it sort of moves that along. If there's not enough, it evens it out. And so it can be really nice in these sequences to have a twist. I usually try to incorporate some kind of twist because of that. But, you have to listen to your body and the feeling and If something doesn't feel right or isn't available to your body, then, that outweighs any benefits that you would get from forcing the shape. And that's, again, we don't force water, right? We try as humans, we try to force water. We build our dams and our bridges and our, we have all of our different water systems, but most of the time at some point, if the waters decide they've had enough, right? Like they dry up, they flood. And that is always the humbling thing, as much as we have technology and power. And again, a lot of that is those higher chakras, right? Those elements, the earth, the water, the fire, the air, right? Like we're not a match for that, and it's an important place to surrender in our reverence and respect and reciprocal relationship with the elements, starting with here in our body. How many imbalances do we have in this part of the body? The hips, the pelvis, the genitals, the reproductive organs, the sacrum. A lot of challenges can arise here. And again, it's not that like, oh, I'll do some second chakra work and that's gonna, handle that. It brings us into, again, more clarity. And we talked about this earlier this week. One of my teachers often says that if you can feel it, you can heal it. And I've said that too. And I always like to add that, healing is a very personal concept. And each of us has to define healing for ourselves. For some people, they think if something's healed, then it's gone and it's done. And they're never, having to look at it again. But for me, healing is usually, it's a process, sometimes a lifelong process of just evolving with a wound or a trauma or a situation, a challenge, a relationship. Most things have a way of cycling around in some form. Our samskaras are cycles. And so, but usually if we're feeling something, it is calling for attention to evolve the relationship, to bring healing to it at whatever stage it's ready to receive that healing. Because again, it's very easy to disconnect from our emotions. So when they come up, it is an opportunity to feel. And sometimes it's like, not right now, not right now. Come back later, and it will. Take another big belly breath in. Side out. And so no rush. As I mentioned, we'll be moving into supported bridge. So you can take a couple more sweet breaths in your twist. If and when you're ready, you can gather your knees into your chest. Give them a nice hug. And supported bridge is done on the back by placing the feet on the mat, lifting the hips, and putting something underneath the sacrum. So ideally a firm, flat item like a block, a book, a bolster, or even just a folded blanket. And you can rest your sacrum on that support and let the knees kind of knock together. You could also extend the legs long. That's going to kind of open up the hip flexors a little bit. And full bridge actually is the feet lifted up. So I have, again, a couple bolsters. So I'm going to put a bolster at the bottom of my mat. And then I've got my blocks. And obviously I have, a bunch of props, right? So lying on the back with the knees bent, lift the hips and put the block flat under the sacrum. Make sure my shoulders are on my back, and then I'll kind of kick out that bolster so that I can bring my feet and my heels and feet will rest there. And this, again, it deepens that stretch to the hip flexors. It gives us a full inversion, and kind of everything starts to pull towards the pelvis and the low belly. And obviously we have that contact right at the sacrum. And so just like Supta Baddha Konasana, this pose affects pretty much the whole chakra system. But today we're focusing on that direct relationship, the opening through the hips, the pelvis, the hip flexors, the sensation at the sacrum, that flow of breath and energy as the body settles here. So again, feet on the mat, legs extended, feet up on a prop. If you're working with another variation here, that's great too. You could always put the legs up the wall or bring the legs up with the support under the sacrum. But just stay with your breath, soften your face. And if you feel any pulling in your low back, then I definitely recommend having the knees bent and not lifting the hips as high. So even if the block at the flat can even be too high, so even just having like a small folded blanket or pillow is fine. Just even having an inch of the hips up is going to start to create that opening there through the pelvis, as well as giving us the other benefits of the heart opener and the mild inversion. So kind of flooding the energy of the hips. And so just let yourself kind of gather everything here. Soften the jaw, soften the face. Depending on the setup, for some people, this is a pose people can be in for, 20, 30 minutes. If you've got the right setup. For other people, it's hard to be in it longer than, 3 or 4. So just listen to the body, give yourself space. So there's no rush, nowhere to go. I will mention that from here, we're coming into Shavasana. So if you are one of those people where, after about 3 or 4 minutes in bridge, the body's ready to shift, you can lift your hips, slide the block out. And then for a moment, maybe just rock your tailbone, your sacrum, give yourself a hug. And then we'll just settle into Shavasana. So Shavasana could look like lying on the back with recommended a pillow under the head and a bolster or pillow under your knees. Maybe covering the body or putting like a light blanket or pillow over your hips and pelvis. You could do a fetal pose, Shavasana, lying on one side with a blanket between the knees and pillow under the head. And I like to hug something in, like another pillow or blanket. Or if there's another pose that your body just really wants to be in, and maybe for you, you want to do some movement and meditation, or maybe you want to kind of take this Shavasana into bed. And so I I always say that if you need to leave the meeting so that you can kind of stay in this juicy, restful space, then you're always welcome to do that. But otherwise, we'll just spend a little bit of time letting go fully, resting into the waters of the swadhisthana chakra. Again, you can come back to this sensation of your senses, back to the sensation of floating or rocking pulse, being bathed and blessed in whatever waters feel most nourishing. And we all begin in the water. As a species, we know we came from the water, and also as our biological humans, the maternal womb, right? Like was water. We were in a water sack the first several months of life. And so there is something very primal and intuitive about kind of curling into a warm, sort of dark space. The comfort of warm water. And sometimes, like I said, that's just a warm shower, a warm bath, a warm cup of tea. But just let these last few moments be nourishing, helping to restore your intuition, your emotional intelligence, your creativity and juiciness, your innate sensuality. And again, there's no quick fixes for pretty much anything. And our chakras develop and evolve through our entire life. And so we're continually coming back into these spaces. But for just these last few minutes, just rest into that sacred abode of the sacral chakra. Letting yourself be breathed and held, letting everything else go, letting the waters wash away anything you don't need from the day, the week. Just resting deeper and deeper into that fluid surrender. The invitation remains to continue to rest and float, maybe right into dream space. Otherwise, just start to breathe down into your belly, observing the taste in the mouth. Maybe sliding the eyes back and forth under the closed lids. Breathing through the nose and smelling the air, feeling the air on your skin, hearing the sound of my voice, the sound in the space. Allowing your senses to call you back. Take a big belly breath in, fill up, and then sigh. You can bring some movement back, beginning to rock and roll and shift. You can just curl right on to fetal pose. If and when you would like to, your body can transition to a seat. Sitting up nice and tall. You can place the hands on the belly or on the body, or you can take your hands together. So we'll make a triangle. So your index fingers and thumbs touch, and the other fingers can kind of rest there. And then flip it and place it at the low belly. It's one of my favorite mudras for Swadhisthana chakra. And just sitting up nice and tall. And maybe a little rock here, a little pulse. And we'll tone the sound Vam, the seed sound of the Swadhisthana chakra, one time to close. And you can just listen, you can hum, or take a deep breath in. Vam. Bring the hands to the heart or anywhere that feels good to bow and honor each other for the practice. Thank you for being here. Many sacral chakra blessings to you. And I hope to see you soon. Namaste. Let me know if you have any questions or anything.